Okay, so a very good evening, guys. Can you let me know if y'all can hear me and see a screen? Yes. Okay, good. Today, guys, we'll start off with the past papers for focus area number 6. That is under unit 2, that is under supply. In terms of the questions, I don't think there is a lot of questions, right? So there is only comparatively a little bit lesser than what we had for demand. So once we are done with focus area number 6, depending on how the time is and all of it, if we have some time, we will move on to focus area number 7. If not, we will do focus area number 7 the next week. The 24 central bank report, do we need? So guys, in terms of central bank data for your exam, what you will need to know is the 2023 information. But you will not get MCQs asking what is the unemployment rate of Sri Lanka, what is this of Sri Lanka. They will not give you MCQs like that. So the data you need is to use for your essay questions, especially when you write current context answers. For example, what happened to government revenue? Did it go up or go down? What was the percentage of GDP in the previous year? That kind of questions, that kind of places is where you will use those numbers. So what you can do is you can use the 2024 central bank report and get some information from that also. From the 24 central bank report, Lama, you can get the 2023 numbers as well. So you can refer to that. Or else, even from the 2023 central bank report, you can get the 2023 numbers. Whatever that you have gone through, that's fine. Mainly, you need to know the 2023 numbers. But if you have a bit of latest knowledge, a bit of old ones, that is also fine. You don't need to know all of those numbers, Lama, especially the ones that are there in my tute. So the important information will be there in my theory class tutes. You can use that. I will also do a current context related session with all of y'all in the 4th month of the fast track program. There I will, recap the whole thing again with the main areas and the numbers that you need to know. Okay, right. So today, Lama, we'll start with the past papers. And as usual, I have a small cartoon to start off with, just to keep you all updated about what is happening around in Sri Lanka and also in the world. What is this cartoon about, Lama? Who are these two people shaking hands and what are they shaking hands for? Hmm? Yes, doubt clearing session, we will have one tomorrow. That is for the fast track people. I'll inform on the group. Hmm? Okay, so this is Trump and the Chinese president. Okay, Chinese president is Z. What are they shaking hands for? So remember, I told you a couple of weeks ago, right? I told you Trump did announce a lot of tariffs on all the countries, but then he announced a pause. He announced a 90-day pause on tariffs on all the countries except China. So now in the last 3-4 days, what has happened is the tariffs on China has also been paused. So I think US was charging around a 145% tariff on Chinese goods. China was charging around 125% tariffs on US goods. So right now with the pause, they have brought it down. US has brought their tariffs down to 30% and China has brought their tariffs down to a 10%. So that pause is until the 10th of August, 10th or 9th of August, I can't remember. Until the mid of August is where that pause is. So it's a 90-day pause. So right now between US and China, the tariff rates have come down temporarily for the 90 days. So within these 90 days, if both of the countries can get into some sort of an agreement, let's say negotiate between themselves and, get into a better deal, then in the future also, some other rates can continue. Otherwise, it will go back to the 145% and the 125% that each countries are charging from themselves. In terms of Sri Lanka, we also don't have a tariff deal yet. So Trump did announce a 44% tariff on Sri Lankan goods. Right now, because of the pause, that 44% is not effective. So we are trying to negotiate. We have sent a team to the US to, negotiate, try to get it down a bit. So far, there has not been any big progress in terms of that. India has got into some sort of deals. UK has got into some sort of deals. So there is a few countries getting into deals. In terms of Sri Lanka, we have not yet got into a solid deal as of yet. So that's what is happening around in terms of the local and the global markets. In terms of Sri Lanka, there is nothing big happening within the country itself apart from these tariffs affecting the elections. We spoke of it, I think, last class. So from last class to today, there is nothing much that is out there. We want to make, yes, that is there. So they have one, so different things. So that's the whole corruption and all of that. So we'll start, Lama. We'll share the screen and we'll get started with the past papers. And one more thing, guys, I think I sent a message on the WhatsApp group as well. Registrations, Lamai, for month 2 of the fast track program is closed. Please don't pay and register. It's closed. I wanted to get only a 300 students, but it went a bit overboard. I have now closed it at 350. I'm not printing any more books, not taking anyone in after this. So it's closed. Don't pay and register for the fast track for month 2. Month 3, if there are slots, if some existing students leave, that will create some new slots for June, then you can join. If no one leaves, then you can't join. But most likely a few people here and there will drop out, then you will have a slot that you can join. I will then inform on the free past paper class group. Okay, right. Because I'm telling you not to pay, Lama, because when you all pay, then I will have to refund, and that's a whole lot of time on my end. Okay, so I just don't want to waste time of yours and mine. Okay, we'll start, Lamai, with Unit 2, focus area number 6. So far we have done 5 focus areas, 4 from unit number 1. The 5th one was unit number 2, demand. Today we are starting unit number 2, supply and elasticity of supply. How many of you all did the questions, Lamai? I think it was a very small tute also. Did you all get the questions done? Would have taken around, in 1.5 hours maximum, you could have finished this off. Shouldn't have taken you that long. I would have sent the tute very early also. I resent it multiple times again. Got it done? Good. So I think around half of you all have done it based on the answers I have on the chat box. Other half, a bit worried about what you're doing, but at least I'm happy that you're here in class. Okay, so we'll start discussing MCQs, Lamai. Give me answers as usual. We'll see how we can get it done. So starting with our first one. Question number 14 from the 2011 A-level paper. The question is saying, which statement correctly describes the price elasticity of supply along the supply curve shown in the above diagram? What do you think, Lamai? Lamai, by looking at this supply curve, can you tell me what is the type of elasticity? Elastic or inelastic? What's this type? This is a elastic, right? When you look at the shape, you can figure this out. Okay, it is a elastic supply curve. So if it is elastic, Lamai, your PES has to be more than 1 or less than 1. Your PES has to be greater than 1, or in other words, greater than unity. Unity means 1. Okay. Lamai, what happens to your PES along the curve for an elastic supply curve? What happens? Can you, Lamai, if you all have a small, okay, I'll just make a quick note here. Can you all make a note? Give me a second. Okay, right. So can you all make this note, Lam? I think it's a very important one that you all need to know. It is tested in the other questions as well. So listen carefully. I'll take around 10 minutes just to quickly go through this elasticity and connect that with the supply equations that we have. Okay. So Lamai, if you if you have a sticky note or something, you can, I don't think a sticky note will be enough, but maybe a half of a A4 sheet should be enough. You don't have to write it now. You can take a screenshot and paste it off later. Then I'll go through a few things. One is when you have inelastic supply. Inelastic supply. Unitary elastic supply. Okay. Unitary elastic supply and elastic supply. Okay. Now, can you tell me, Lamai? First, tell me what is the value of the PES for all of this? In elastic supply, your PES value will be? PES will be less than 1. inelastic. What is inelastic supply again, Lama? Inelastic supply again, when your price changes, the supply will change by a smaller proportion. Let's say price changes by 10%, supply might only change by 5%. That we call inelastic. Lama, for unitary elastic, what is your PES? PES value will be equal to 1. And then for elastic supply, your PES will be equal to, not equal to, it will be greater than 1. Elastic supply, right? That we know. So now, Namai, we'll look at the curves. Okay. So if you look at a inelastic supply curve, how does your curve look like? How does your supply curve look like, Namai? Supply curve looks like this. Menna mehem. Okay, a very steep supply curve. For a unitary elastic supply curve, Lamai, how does your curve look like? It looks like this, goes right from the origin. Anna, this is this. And then for an elastic supply curve, Lamai, how does your supply curve look like? It starts at the negative and then it goes like this. Usually we don't draw the negative side, no? That's how that goes. No? So this is the 3 supply curves. Now what you need to know, Lamai, is based on these supply curves, based on where these curves start, you can determine the elasticity, Lamai. So if your supply curve starts with a positive intercept, now this is your A component. This is the quantity supplied when the price is 0. When your price is 0, how much is your quantity supply? So for example, Lamai, your inelastic supply curve has a positive A component. So your supply curve, supply equation will take this format. For example, 100 plus 5p. Now, for example, this is the 100 Lamai. This is that 100. You get a plus number. So if I am to second, your supply equation will take this format. QS equals A plus BP. Now, if you take, Lamai, the elastic one, the last one, your A component here is negative. Here, for example, that's a minus 100. So for an elastic supply curve, it will look like this, Lamai. Your equation will be QS equals minus 100 plus, let's say, if I'm to write the format, it will be QS equals minus A plus BP. So for example, minus 100 plus 5P. And that is how an elastic supply equation would look. So if you see the A component is a negative one, that means, Lama, it's an elastic one. If the A component is positive, that means it's a inelastic curve. Then how does it look for a unitary elastic curve? Your A component is 0, Lama. So for a unitary elastic curve, your supply equation will be in the format of QS equals BP. There is no A component. So if your equation is in, let's say, this format, QS equals 5P, that means, Lamai, that is a unitary elastic supply curve. So based on the supply equation, you should be able to tell what type of supply elasticity is. Whether is it an inelastic, unitary, or whether it's an elastic supply curve. And then there is one more thing that you need to know. The thing you need to know is, Lamai, I'm not going into the numbers and all of it, but I'll just tell you the story. Lamai, in an inelastic supply curve, I'll just mark 3 points, point A, point B, point C. At point A, your PES will equal to 0. You can put some numbers and calculate if you want. At point B, Lamai, it will be more than 0, but less than 1. So for example, here PES might be, let's say, 0.3. At point C, maybe, Lamai, your PES might be, let's say, 0.75. So along the supply curve, the PES will increase, but it will be less than 1. Remember that. For an inelastic supply curve, along the curve, in other words, when the price is increasing, your PES value will increase 0, 0 0.3, 0 0.75, but it will be less than 1. So we'll make a note of that as well. So you can say PES increases along the curve, but is less than 1, or in other words, you can say less than unity. Less than unity, or within brackets, I'll just say 1. It will increase along the curve, but it will be less than 1. For an elastic supply curve, it will be the opposite. For an elastic supply curve, if I'm to give you some numbers, it will look like this. I'll mark 3 points again. Point A, point B, point C. At point A, your PES will equal to infinity. Okay. Along the curve, your PES will decrease, but it will be more than 1. So for example, at point B, right, PES will equal to, let's say, 5. At point C, let's say PES is equal to 1.5. So it is decreasing along the curve, but it will be more than 1. Now that is the one that they have asked you in that past paper question now. So we'll make a note of that also. In this, what happens? In this, PES decreases along the curve, but is more than 1. More than unity. Unity or 1. Unity or 1 means same thing. Huh? It's more than 1. It will decrease until 1. It won't hit 1. It will be 1.001 maybe. And then you have a unitary elastic supply curve. In a unitary elastic supply curve, how does the PES work? Let's say if I mark point A, point B, point C, at all of these points, your PES will equal to 1. So at every point, here also it is equal to 1. Here also it is equal to 1. Here also it is equal to 1. So make a note there also if you want. PES remains constant. PES remains constant along the curve, and is equal to 1. And is equal to unity, or you can say 1. So that's something that the examiner usually tests in MCQs. Highly tested area. Now, the first question is also from this. You will see going forward, there are more questions that come from this area that I kind of taught you. So I'll just put a, okay, let me try to make this a little fancy. Okay, so supply and elasticity, highly tested area out there. So you can make a small, you can take a small screenshot to do whatever you want. Make a small note in that past paper tute itself. If you have the printed paper, I think the printed paper is 3 pages, right? The paper that you printed, PDF, or 4? 4. Is the back, is there some blank space somewhere in that tute? In the 3rd page or somewhere? So if there is, maybe write it down there. Right? On the 4th page, or I don't know, any page, if there is some blank space, make a note there. So what I want you all do is, when you all do those past papers, if possible, get a printout of the tute I sent. Attach all your answers as well. Whatever short notes, whatever notes you make, that also attach. Properly file it and come, please do that. So that by the time in, let's say, 4 or 5 months, when we finish off the past paper class, you have done all the papers. You have nicely made notes. You've nicely learned everything. Okay. Right. So then, with that knowledge now, we'll go back to the MCQ. So this one, if you look at this, Lamai, this is a what? Elastic supply curve. PES is more than 1. But what happens to the PES along the curve? It will increase or decrease. What will happen to PES along the curve? Along the curve, your PES will decrease. I showed you it's greater than 1, but your PES will decrease along the curve. So can we see which one is our answer then? They're asking you, number 1 is saying it is constant. Is the PES constant? No. It decreases. So you can't say constant. Second one also says constant. Wrong. Third one says it is equal to unity. That is if the supply is what, Lamai? When is your PES equal to unity at all quantities? If it was a unitary elastic supply curve, then this one is correct. Unitary elastic nang wenna meka hadi. So not this. It diminishes as quantity increases. Is that correct? Diminishes means decreases. They're saying PES decreases as quantity increases. Hari nilamai. Now that is your answer. Then the last one says it increases as quantity increases. That would have been correct for what? Fifth one would have been correct if the supply was inelastic. Then it increases when this. So here, if it was inelastic, the fifth one would have been correct. So your answer here is the fourth one. Let me share that thing again if you all want to get a screenshot. Yeah. Done. Then we'll move into the next MCQ. The next one is from the 2012 paper. Again, a very common question. You will see this in essay questions also. You will see this in MCQs also. Which of the following would shift the supply curve of a good to the left? Okay. Right, guys, can you all quickly tell me? We'll just recap this area also. What are the determinants of supply? What and what do we have, Lamai? Determinants of supply. We have price of the good. Okay. Price of the good. You have, let's say, cost of production or price of inputs. Cost of production or price of inputs. You have price of related goods. That is what you call production substitutes. Price of related goods. Then you have technology. Okay. Technology. You have future consumer income will not come here, am I? Future price expectations. Future price expectations. Government policies. Government policies. And you can also have the number of supplies. Number of producers or the number of suppliers. And then you'll have other factors. I'll leave other factors out here. Can you quickly tell me, Lamai, when the price of the good changes, will the demand curve shift? Sorry, supply curve. Will the supply curve shift? No, right? That is a change in quantity supplied. So when the price of the good changes, what do we have? When the price of the good changes, Lamai, if the price increases, quantity supplied will come up. If the price decreases, quantity supplied will come down. That is the law of supply. No shift. It's a movement along the curve. It's a movement along the curve. If any other factor changes, supply will shift. Either shift to the right. So if the supply shifts to the right, Lama, that's an increase in supply. No? If this is your supply curve, shifting to the right, that is an increase in supply. And shifting to the left, that is a decrease in supply. That is what happens. So then, can you quickly tell me, Lamai, what happens if your cost of production increases or the price of your inputs increase? Will supply increase or decrease? Cost of production increases. Now it's expensive to produce the good. If your cost of production increases, your supply will come down, no? Right? Supply will decrease. What if your cost of production comes down? Now it's very cheap to produce the good. The price of your inputs are now have fallen. Then supply will increase. Rightward shift. Okay. Price of related goods. Price of related goods is what we call my production substitutes. What if the price of the related good increase? What will you do? Now, a price of a related good maybe for me could be something like, let's say, graphic design. With my same laptop, my same labor, I can do graphic design. Now, if the price of graphic designing increase, what will I do? I will stop supplying econ classes and I will go and supply that, right? So if the price of related good increases, what happens to your supply? The supply of your good, Lamai, comes down. Go back to the theory class recording if you can't remember. And the same way, what if the price of the related good comes down? Then those people will also come and supply your good. So supply of your good will increase. Right. Then technology. Technology is a very easy one. So technology, if your technology improves, we can't say increase, but if we say technology improves, what will happen to your supply? Your supply will increase. If you're using like outdated technology, obsolete technology, supply will decrease. Then future price expectation. How does that work? If you expect the future price to increase, what will the suppliers do now, Lamai? Will they go and supply now? If they expect in another 1 or 2 days, price will increase. What will they do? Right now, they will hide it and keep. And in 2 days, they will put it up. So right now, supply will come down. If they expect the future price to come down, what do they do? Then, if they expect the future price to come down, now itself, they will try to go and sell everything off. The supply will increase. Right. Then the last one, government policies, there are two, taxes and subsidies. That's what we learn in unit number 3 in detail. So if the taxes increase, what will happen to supply? If taxes increase, supply will decrease. If taxes decrease, what if the government had a tax and now they removed that tax? That means supply would go up. Okay. Then on the other side, you have subsidies. The subsidies are denoted with the letter R, right? So what if your subsidies increase? Then supply will increase. What if they reduce the subsidies? Then supply will come down. That was easy. No? Okay. And finally, you have my number of suppliers. That's also very easy. What happens if the number of suppliers increase? If your number of suppliers increase, supply will increase. Number of suppliers comes down, supply will come down. Fine. So that's a quick brief of the determinants. Now this also gets tested so many times. So then which one is our answer, Lamai, for this? Which the following would shift the supply curve to the left? Left kiyanne, which one will decrease your supply? Which one do you think will decrease your supply? So I'll cut off a few answers, Lamai. Definitely, I will cut off answer number 2 and answer number 3. Because 2 and 3 are saying increase and decrease of price. Increase and decrease of price doesn't shift your supply curve. It's a movement along the curve. So you definitely have to cut off 2, 3 and 4. Okay. Sorry, 3 and 4. Then number 5 also I will cut off, Lamai, because 5 says decrease in demand. That's not even a determinant here. No? Not that. Then you have 1 and 2 left. Increase in the cost of production, decrease in the cost of production. When will your supply decrease? Supply will reduce his supply if his cost of production goes up. If it is expensive to produce the good, he will reduce his supply. So which one is your answer then, Lamai? Answer number 1. These are not hard ones. These are very direct, very easy, straightforward questions. Done. Then, Lamai, you can make notes. You can take screenshots. That's up to you. I will not tell you every single question. Right? Don't just look at my face and wait. Then, now, if you can't quickly write a screenshot and gun, right? This is a online class now. Take a screenshot, make notes later, even that's okay. Then going to the next one, 2012, question number 12. Okay. They're saying, assume that the demand for water bottles, bottled water is relatively price elastic. Okay. So let's say I'll just draw and see. So demand for water is elastic, they're saying. So flatter demand curve. An increase in the supply of water will result in which of the following? So supply of water, they have not told whether it's elastic or inelastic. So we'll just draw a normal supply curve like a unitary one. Okay. Now, this is your supply curve. Now they're saying, so we'll just note Lamai because they're talking about total revenue and all of that. We'll see. So let's say price of a bottled water was 100 rupees. Let's say 10 people were buying water. So right now, the total revenue from bottled water was 1,000 rupees for the bottle supply. Now what has happened, Lamai? The question is saying there is an increase in the supply. Okay, so then I will shift the supply curve to the right now. Increase in the supply. So now see, Lamai, what would have happened to price? What would have happened to quantity? If you look at it, Lamai, the price has fallen a very little, no? Let's say 100 would have come down to a 90. Very small fall in price. But if you look at the quantity, that has gone up a lot. So let's say quantity has gone to 50. So then you can tell something about total revenue as well. Maybe based on my numbers, Lama, if you calculate and tell me, can you tell me how much is the numbers? Total revenue before? Earlier price was 100 rupees. They were selling 10 bottles. Earlier it is 1,000. See, Lama, now these type of questions you draw and figure out, Lama. There is no memorizing here. Logically, you would figure out, okay, how much is the total revenue after? Based on my example, price is 90. Now they are selling 15 bottles. So 19 into 15, you get 1,350. So what can you tell about total revenue, Lama? What's your conclusion? Total revenue has increased or decreased? Total revenue is increased, right? So right, with that, Lama, we'll just look at the answers and see which one could be our answer. Okay, first one is saying a decrease in the price. Is that correct? When supply increases, there will be a decrease in the price. Correct? 100 became 90. Good. Leading to an increase in total revenue. Is that correct? Is the total revenue increasing? That also is correct. So that looks like our answer then. We'll look at the other options also. Okay. Answer number 2 says a decrease in price. That part is correct. Leading to a decrease in total revenue. No, total revenue is going up. And excess supply. No, when supply increases, there is equilibrium. So you can't say excess supply. And excess demand, no, equilibrium. A relatively small decrease in price, that is correct, no, small decrease in price, and no change in the equilibrium quantity. Is that part correct? Relatively small decrease in price, correct. No change in the equilibrium quantity. You can't say that, no, man. That is wrong. Equilibrium quantity is changing. So then I will cut that also off. Now, see, now these questions, now, if you ask me what the answer for this is, I also can't just tell you the answer now. I also will draw a diagram only and figure this out. That is exactly what you should do also. Now, I'm telling this for the 100th time. I've told you all this before also. Your econ paper, Lama, you can't memorize and write. So if you have memorized the note, if you have done all of that, you can't get that done. Theory price and supply has a positive relationship. Yes, but that is not, that is price and supply. These supply curves shifting. That's the problem. That's what happens when you memorize. You memorize law of supply saying when price increase, supply will increase, then you forget the whole thing. That is quantity supply. That is not supply shifting. Okay. So what you need to do is, Lamai, you need to logically attempt all the questions. Now that's what you want. You will not get the same question again. Now, this same question, they can turn it around. They can give you another supply curve. They can tell you demand is inelastic. They will say supply is something like this. Now, supply has decreased. What do you think would have happened? So, if you have logically understood how to do this question, so even if they twist this question around, you should be able to answer them. That's the whole point. Otherwise, there is no point of me doing this question and you memorizing this. Okay. So, it's not about memorizing, Lama. It's about understanding the concept. Why is it excess supply? There is no excess supply. Excess supply is when the supply is more than the demand. So here there is equilibrium. When the supply shifts to the right, you come to equilibrium point. So at this point, quantity supplied and quantity demand are equal to each other. So there is no excess supply. That is there. It's an equilibrium point. There is no excess supply. Okay. Right. So 12 is done. We'll go to the next one. 2016. So that means 2013, 14, 15 and all, there were no questions from supply. So 2016, again, a very easy one. They're saying the market supply curve for a good would shift to the left. Shift to the left කියන්නේ මොකක්ද ළමයි? That means your supply is decreasing. So then look at your things that we wrote over here. When will your supply decrease? One of this, not number one. Number one won't shift the supply curve. So anything from 2 to 7, which will decrease your supply. So which one could be our answer then? Technology improves. No. If technology improves, my supply will increase. Price of inputs fall. Inputs price can my cost of production. If the cost of production falls, supply will increase again. Number 3 says price of inputs increase. If your inputs price go up, that means your cost of production goes up. That means your supply will start to come down. And that could be your answer. We look at the others. Technology improves, price of input falls. Both of it will increase your supply. More suppliers enter the industry. Number of suppliers have gone up. Supply will increase. So very easy question, Lamai. 10 is number 3. These are like free marks in your paper if you get a question like this. Then we go into the next one. 2016 has another one. Now you should be able to get this right, Lamai, based on what I taught you all before. Supply of a good is given by the equation QS equals 6P. QX or QX. They're saying is equal to 6P. There is no A component, Lamai. Now, usually it will be minus 100 plus 6P plus 100 plus 6P, something like that. There is no A component. What should click you? In which type of supply curve did you not have a A component? You did not have a component in a unitary elastic supply curve. I showed you QS equals 5P. That is what they are asking. So that means that is a unitary elastic supply curve. So a unitary elastic supply curve, Lamai, what is the value of your PES? Your PES has to be equal to what? Should be equal to 1. There is no calculation here, Lamai. Some people, they will try to calculate and do different things. There is no calculation. Just look at the equation. You can figure out PES is equal to 1. So answer is number 2. So these are also, Lamai, if you know that basic point, it's about knowing that basic thing. Then you will be able to figure this out. Then we go into the next one. 2017. Okay. If the price elasticity of supply is less than 1. Okay, so PES is less than 1 means what, Lamai? Elastic or inelastic? That means it is inelastic. Inelastic. What does inelastic supply mean, Lamai? When your price changes, your supply will change by a bigger percentage or a smaller percentage. What does inelastic supply mean? Supply will change, but it will change by a smaller proportion or a smaller percentage. So supply will change, but it will change by a smaller proportion. So with that, Lama, we'll see which one could be our answer. Now be very careful, Lama, with your answer. There could be very similar answers. First one is saying change in quantity supplied is greater than the change in price. Is that correct, Lama? No. So here, the percentage change in price will be greater than the percentage change in quantity supply. Supply changes by a smaller proportion. So you can't say supply is changing in a greater proportion. 2 is saying percentage change in quantity supplied is greater than the percentage change in price. No. Then there has to be elastic. Change in quantity. Lamai, which one is correct? 3 or 4? 3 is saying change in quantity supplied is less than the change in price. 4 is saying percentage change in quantity supplied is less than the percentage change. Is it the absolute change or is it the percentage change? It's the percentage change, Lamai, not the absolute change. So your answer is number 4, not number 3. Then the last one, Bala, percentage change in quantity supplied is less than the change in price. See, the word percentage is not there. See, my answer now, question is a very easy one, but they make the answers very similar. That is to get you confused and, make sure that you get it wrong. Now, do you also know, Lamai, how, okay, just a random thing. I think I saw this today somewhere. How many percent of students do you think got A's for econ last year out of everyone who sat for econ? Proportion means percentage. What's the percentage who got A's? So probably econ, there would have been close to around 50, 60,000 total students who did econ. How many of them got an A? I saw this in a status of Harsh answers. I did not check the official statistics, but based on that, it was only 11% who has got A's, right? From the total people who've done A-level econ last year, only 11% got A's, right? That's because Lamai, people try to memorize the question. You memorize the question and answer and go karaganna beha. Right? So probably the number who would have done econ Lamai would have been close to around 50,000, I'm guessing. Commerce is 50,000, but not everyone who does commerce does econ. But then there are some art students also who do. So I think roughly around 50,000 maybe would have done econ. Yeah. So only 11% have got A's. Why? What happened to the other 89%? That's what happens when you memorize line. But don't worry, my class people have done well. I have not published a final results update yet because I am the one who designs all the flyers. So for me to find the time to design the flyer is the problem. So in terms of my class, my last batch, 2024, around 60% had A's. In the island, only 11% of the total students had A's. So that is how it is. So here when I say econ lama, it's a commerce, art, both, not just commerce people. Econ as a subject, only 11% had A's in the island. So that's the problem. So don't, I'm telling all of y'all also, Lama, please don't memorize the subject, Lama, learn it logically. Why this happens, this is how it works, that is what you need to do. You can't memorize it, you can get that done. Other subjects, Lama, I'm not very sure of the numbers. I'll have a check and I'll let you know. Usually, I think the 2023 one was out based on subjects, how many get A's and all. We'll see. I think I should be able to find it. We'll see if I can find it. I don't know if I think 2020 results. I'm sure if the analysis is there, but we'll see. The 2023 analysis that is there. 24 one is not uploaded, I think, officially on the website. Also, the 2023 numbers should be similar. It can't change a lot, no? From one year to another year. Downloads. This is 2023, not the latest one. So if you take 2023, here you have the total number of students who have sat. So in 2023, there were 229,000 students. 24 should also be very similar. It can't change a lot. See, 21, 22, 23, 236, 232. It's very similar numbers. In terms of that, commerce, this is the provinces. Yep, commerce number of people who have sat is around 50,000. Number changes a little bit here and there. Arts is the highest. There are 82,000 students in the arts stream. So total 229. That's the breakdown. In terms of subjects, subject is also, oops. This is the subjects in 2020, economics and maybe in economics. So economics, there were the 2023, not the latest one. So in 2023, number of people who sat for econ, there were 60,000 students who've done econ. From the 60,000 students who've done econ, in 2023, 13.7% people got A's. That is 8,289 students have got A's. So only 13.7. Now in 2024, that number is 11%. So it has gone down even more. Okay. If you look at maybe your other general subjects, maybe things like accounting and okay, here business studies. Business studies number is even lesser. Sorry, business studies is a little bit higher. Statistics is lesser. So business studies only 54,000. Statistics only 681 people have done. Only, sorry, business studies is low actually. Only 9.98%, almost close to 10% have got A's. Then if you take something like accounting, 56,000 students have done, 16% have got A's. So from the three general commerce subjects, accounting has been the subject that most have got A's. Now the problem with business studies also, Lama, you all memorize and go. Now you all know recently, earlier business studies was a very easy subject. But now with the fact that it's made more practical, you all memorize theory and go. See, business studies A's is even lesser than econ A's. Accounting is the one that has most A's. IT should be there. Information technology, maybe. So that's even lesser. You see, IT, 37,000 people have done, only 3.7% have A's. From the 37,000, only 1,400 have A's. In Colombo, Lama, usually people do much better. Especially what happens is outside of Colombo. That's where it gets hard because they don't have proper teachers, they don't have proper resources. That gets difficult. And especially something like IT, studying in Sinhala also is hard, Lamai. Because now if you take IT, it's in English, Lamai. Computers will be in English, well, in these technical terms and all is English. So it becomes a little bit harder for the Sinhala medium students and also for the people outside Colombo because they don't have the resources. So that's where the subjects are. Okay. Need to base, you can't get good ranks. There's nothing like that, Lamai. There is maybe a small Z-score advantage, disadvantage here, but there is really nothing like that. If you work hard, you still will be able to get a very good rank. You'll see if there's a breakdown from. Is there a number with people who got 3 A's? Number of people. This is the uni entrance thing. 3 A's. No, it's a breakdown. So in the commerce stream, they don't have a breakdown of breakdown for English and Sinhala medium in this. But yeah, that's how the subjects look like. Those are subjects that you all are mainly doing. Now, even if you take, let's say something like in statistics, I think that is even lower. No? I know some of you all are doing stat. So business statistics, only 681 people have done, and only 60 people have got A's. That's only 8.81%. That's very low, Lamai. So that means it'll be very hard even to find a class. So from this 681, how many people will be doing in the English medium? So to find the English medium stat teacher might be actually very difficult. Yes, you will not have much because this market economy, if you don't have a market, no one's going to produce. So that's why sometimes it's hard to find teachers. So some subjects can be really nice, but you don't have teachers. Now, for example, look at this. Something like, I don't know, mechanical technology, only 8 people have ever done it from the country in 2023. So for those people, to find classes, who's going to do classes? If all the 8 in the island also go to that teacher's class, the teacher will only have 8 students. So that's the problem. So in terms of subjects, I think chemistry has been the subject most, physics and chemistry has been the subject most people have done. Okay. And then number 7, yeah, that is higher mathematics. I think that's most people do combined mathematics. Some people also do something called higher mathematics, only 3 people in the country. So that's how it has been, I think. So see, but the good thing is there are 62 subjects. Who knew, no? There are 62 subjects out there. And I think this is the one no one has done. Drama and theater in English. No one has done drama and theater in English for A levels. Malay, there is 4 people. Arabic, there are some crowd. Sinhala, there is a crowd. Science for tech. No, Sinhala, there is a crowd, yeah. 51,000 have done Sinhala. That's probably French. There is around 933. So that's the breakdown. Very interesting things there. So depending on your subject, but what you need to know is, Lamai, even though that is the overall result breakdown, the results for English medium is much better. Now, overall, even for econ, if you take only, even though only 11% have got A's, if you take a subject like econ, if you take English medium alone, that statistics is not there, Lamai. They don't publish it anywhere. So usually for something like econ, English medium stats are much better. Because Lamai, for English medium, one, you have teachers and you have the resources also, Lamai. So you have whatever you can read from the internet, whatever YouTube videos. So you'll never get lost. You can still get things done. That's a good thing that you are doing it in English. Especially the Sinhala Tamil medium ones are the ones who face big issues. Stat has a higher Z score than BS? Should be. Depends on if the paper is hard. This one falls on the category none, they will have a district rank. I don't think, I'm not very sure if they fall under the none. But if I'm not mistaken, they won't. We'll see. Okay. Right. That is done. Sorry, this has not got saved. So the answer for this is Lamai number 4. Then we go to the next one. 2019, the old syllabus one. I'm not sure if this is there in your paper, but it's a very easy one, Lamai. Same question before turned a little. Which of the following would shift the supply curve of the good to the right? Right means which one will increase your supply. The same thing was there before asking supply shift to the left. So I cut off answer number 2, 3, and 4, 3, 4, and 5. Which one will shift to the right? A decrease in the cost of production. Now, can you see now how lazy the examiner has been? He's taken the same question, copied and pasted it. The only word he has changed is instead of saying left, he has made it right. That's what he has done. That's the type of questions now you all also sometimes might be. Then going to the next one. 2019, the old syllabus, there's another one. They're saying now, the diagram shows 4 market supply curves. Which statement is correct about the PES? Okay. Right. Can we name these supply curves? Lamai? S4 is what? Can you tell me the type of supply? Perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, elastic, inelastic. What is that? S4, I'll color it in blue if you all want colors. That is perfectly inelastic. Perfectly. You might not have this, Lamai, in your past paper book, though, this paper. Huh? Lamai, S3, I'll mark that in red. This one, what is that curve? That is a inelastic supply curve. Okay. Inelastic. What about S2? I'll mark that in green. S2 is a unitary elastic one. And then let's say I'll mark this in yellow, S1. S1 is a elastic supply, right? So it's a very easy one. Balam, what the question is asking, they're asking you, curve S1 has decreasing elasticity as price increases. Is that correct now? S1, that's the elastic supply curve. PES decreases when the price increases. Price increases can going along the curve. Correct, I drew and showed you. At this point, it is infinity. Along the curve, it decreases. So that looks correct. Elastic price decreases. Correct. You look at the others. S2 has increasing price elasticity. S2, that's the unitary elastic supply curve. Does the PES increase along the curve? Then PES is always equal to 1. It's constant along the curve. Wrong. S3 has decreasing elasticity. Is that correct? S3 is the inelastic one. Does the PES decrease along the curve? No, it increases along the curve. Wrong. Curve S4 has constant infinite elasticity. S4, constant, right? But is it infinite? Perfectly inelastic number, it is 0. So that is wrong. Curve S2 has elasticity greater than 1. S2, elastic greater than 1? No, it's a S2 is unitary elastic. It is equal to 1, not greater than. So answer number 1. See, now that same knowledge, how they test it in different ways. That elasticity and what happens to PES along the curve, that same thing, multiple ways they can test. So if you know the logic, you can get it done. Done. That question is done. Will a paper get easy, Carlin? I don't think, Lam. I think they will keep the same standard. There is no reason why it should get easy. And especially in the last couple of years, Lama, econ paper has been of very good standard. They have not given easy papers. And I don't see any reason that they will make your paper easy unless they make it hard. I would love if they can make it even more harder and more practical and more current context oriented, but they won't make it very hard because then it's a little tougher for the very weak students. But they will keep a standard level. They will not make it very easy like that. Even if they make it, let's say, a little easier, they'll make the marking tough. Whatever way, you will not find a very easy A. If only 11% or something got A's, they will try to keep it at that level. They won't all of a sudden, next year's paper, you won't have 20% getting A's. That means the standard has changed a lot. So that won't happen. Okay. Okay. This one. Easy one. I don't know why they asked the same thing. Which of the following would shift the supply curve of the good to the left? These are copy paste from the previous question. Shift to the left can my supply will decrease. When will your supply decrease? Answer number 3, 4, 5 you can cut. If the cost of production increases. This is when the examiner gets very lazy. Okay. 6 is 1. At least change the answers. In all the answers, it was cost of production. Okay, then we go to the next one, 2020. Which the following causes an increase in the quantity supplied? Now, when does the quantity supplied increase? Only one reason. 2019 there is an old and a new syllabus because 2019 is where the new syllabus started. So, the people who did in 2018, now, if they are repeating, then it's unfair for them to expect them to learn the new syllabus because if they're repeating, they only have like 6 months to prepare after results come. So for them, they made a separate paper. So that old syllabus paper, that is for the repeating students. The new syllabus paper is the proper paper. That's the one that will be there in your past paper books. Right. When will your quantity supplied increase? Only one reason. That is if the price of the good increases. So which one talks about it? An increase in the price of good X while other things remain constant. That could be your answer. Increase in the price of good Y, improvement in technology, reduction in the resource prices, decrease in demand. Decrease in demand will not at all be relevant. All of these lamai will shift the supply. But increase in quantity supply, that's a movement, right? If you draw that, you're moving from, for example, from this point to this point. How can that happen if the price increases? Done. Then 2021. Suppose that textile is a key import of apparel. So textile is a cloth. So textile is a what? Is a key input. It's an input that is used to produce apparel. Okay. If the price of textiles fall, if the price of textiles fall, what does that mean, Lama? Perfect elastic 0, yes. What will happen to the supply of apparel? Price of textile, price of your inputs are falling. Cost of production is coming down. Cost of production is coming down, can your supply will increase? Supply of apparel will increase. So which one talks about an increase of supply? It's not the demand, it's the supply. Supply of wearing apparel to price. See, now that same thing, but what did they do now? Instead of directly telling price of inputs are falling, they are saying this is the input, this price is falling. Just turning the question around. Done. 2023 then. 2023, okay, the two supply curves in the diagram are parallel in the price range between 30 and 40. Okay. What can you tell? There is no calculation or anything to do here. Did I miss 2021? Is there another one, Lavai? 2021, there's one question. Sorry. Would I have missed it? Give me a second. Let me share the tute and get that done. Second. Twenty-one, 7. Okay. So 21 has 7, sorry. That is this one. Suppose the supply function is given by the equation QS equals 8P. Same thing repeated. And then they're saying where P is the price elasticity of supply. According to the equation, PES is equal to what? Look at the equation format. QS equals 8P. There is no A component, meaning that is a unitary elastic supply curve. -1 or +1? PES? Remember, PES is +1 now. Law of supply positive relationship. So PES will be plus. So 7 is answer number 1. Done. Then I will move back to my tutes slide. Okay, coming into this now, 2023. Looks like an interesting question. No? They're saying the two supply curves in the price range between 30 and 40. What will happen? Curve S1 is more elastic than S2. S2 is more price elastic than S1. Same price elasticity. Okay. By looking at this, Lamai, can you all tell me the two curves based on where the curves are starting, Lamai? Can you tell me S1? Is it elastic or inelastic? Based on where it starts, you can tell S1 is elastic. That means your PES will be greater than 1. Curve S2, based on where it's starting, S2 is unitary. Yeah, look closely where is it starting. Not starting at the origin. Is inelastic. PS will not be -1. Now, PS is always positive. Okay. This is inelastic. So inelastic, your PES will be less than 1. Okay. So Lamai, we'll go through the answers. First one is saying S1 is more price elastic than curve S2. Is that correct? S1 is more elastic than S2. Correct, Lama. S1 is the elastic one, S2 is the inelastic one. That looks correct. We look at the others also. Curve S2 is more elastic. No, S2 is the inelastic one. Cut. Curve S1 and S2 will have the same price elasticity. Will it have the same one? Yes, it's parallel, but it won't have the same PES level. Wrong. Then price elasticity of value of S1 are positive but less than 1. S1 is positive, correct, but is it less than 1? Elastic. Positive, greater than 1. More than 1. Maybe greater than 1. Wrong. Price elasticity of value of S2 is positive, but more than 1. S2, is it more than 1? No, it is less than 1. You can come. See, it looks like a hard one. Ara lokuwata diagram deela arawa karla mewa karla they scare you. But a simple thing they are testing. What we have learned before. Okay, then going to the last question that we have. Which of the following can cause a... So they said, no, they are talking about price of inputs here. In this, so when they say price of inputs in the production, that is supply. Price of inputs means supply. Okay. PES is -1. PES won't be -1. I think I answered that question. 2021 7 was answer was 1 plus 1. Why they have mentioned 30 to 40? That's just to confuse you. Okay. The factor that can cause a movement along the supply curve. When will there be a movement along the supply curve? Where the supply curve won't shift? When there is a change in what? When there is a change in the price of the good. Then only there will be a movement along the supply curve. We'll go here or here or here. If the price of the good changes, if anything else changes, there could be a shift. So that's very easy. Wow. Okay. That's that. How did you all do out of those questions? The second segment, 2020, second one. Welcome. No, complement won't affect support. That's... How did you all do? There were, I think, 14 questions. 14 away. 15 MCQs. How much out of 15? The questions weren't hard. I think at least 10 out of 15, I think, is a good enough mark. There is more questions on demand than supply. Yes, at least 10, I think, is a good enough mark on your end. Now, what you need to do is learn where you went wrong, what happened, learn from it, so that next time it comes, you will get all of it correct. Okay, so shall we take a small break, and then we'll get into the essay questions. Essay questions also, there are not a lot. We can quickly go through that. focus on your writing. So it's 8:09. I'll give you a break until 8:15. Recording will not be there. Take a break until 8:15 and come back. Okay, so we get started, Lamai, after the break. Theory and paper classes, can you drop me a text on WhatsApp? I'll send you details. Theory class is actually over. We have a fast track program, but the fast track program also currently the limit is reached and I have closed registrations. But we'll see. Maybe in a future month you can join. Just drop me a text on WhatsApp. We'll see what we can do. Theory classes, you can definitely get my recordings and tutes and cover up. Okay. Then coming in, Lamai. Yes, that can't help. Coming into the essay questions. So in terms of supply, we don't have any questions in the 2011 and 12 paper. We're starting off with the 2013 paper in terms of supply. So 2013 A-levels, question number 2. The question says, name 4 major non-price determinants of supply for an industrial good. Now, when they say non-price, please don't go and write price. They will cut marks. So anything that is apart from price of the good. So what do you have? And also they're saying that industrial good. So as much as possible, in terms of your answer, try to relate it. If you can, relate it to the industrial good thing. So I have given 1 level of technology, price of factors of production, or you can say cost of production, Lamai. Cost of production. You can even say things like this, Lamai. To be more specific, you can say cost of raw materials, cost of, you can say electricity. You can give that as 1 point. That's cost of production. Then government policies like taxes and subsidies. You can talk about the number of suppliers of that industrial good, the future price expectations, if they will expect the future price to go up or down, and also price of related goods. So anything, Lamai, any 4 factors, if you have named it, you will get your 4 marks. You don't have to explain because the question itself is saying, name 4 major non-price determinants. These are, Lamai, free marks in your paper. If you are not getting these 4 marks, that means you think, I don't know, what are you doing? Price of inputs, correct level. Okay, these are like 3 marks. Then we'll go in the next one. Next one is the 2014 A level question number 3. Future price expected, correct level. No, when you say price determinant, that is only the price of the good. So everything else is non-price. So only price of the good is the one that you can't write. Then question number 2014, question 3, part 2. What are the main factors influencing the direct relationship between price and quantity supply? Now, the same thing, now they can ask you so many ways. What are they asking you? They're asking you the law of supply and the reasons. Why do you have a direct relationship? You can, if you want, you can give a small introduction about the law of supply, but this is not essential because they're directly asking you for the relationship. So why do you have a direct relationship, Laman? If I am to explain this simply, one is the profit motive. So we are talking about, Lamai, market forces, a market economy. So when the price of a good increases, while all other factors are constant, cost of production, technology, if everything is constant, what does that mean? That means, Lamai, the amount of profits that you can earn, the profitability will start to increase. If the price increase and everything else is constant, cost and okkama is constant, now you can earn more profits. So as a result, what happens? The producer is motivated. His objective is to maximize profits. He is motivated and he will increase some positive relations. Same thing goes the other way, Lamai. When the price decreases, if the price decreases, what happens? While everything else is constant, now the amount of profit that you can earn will start to come down. So then your profitability will start coming down. Producer is demotivated and he will reduce his supply. You can use the word vice versa also here, but I would say better, since it's a 5-mark question, I would say better, instead of saying vice versa, explain both of it. That would be better. Do you explain, since the question word is what? You have to, because now you can't just write the 2 points because this is a 5-mark question. So, and there are only 2 factors. So just writing the 2 points will not be enough there. So you'll have to use a bit of a judgment call there. Then the next one is saying, what is the next reason? The next reason for the direct relationship lamai is the law of increasing marginal opportunity cost. Now, I'll explain this to you. I think you all know this, but let me take some time to explain. Lamai, when a producer, we learn increasing opportunity cost in unit number 1. That is what we are trying to connect here. When you produce more and more of a good lamai, what happens? Your opportunity cost increases. When you keep on producing more and more, when you're supplying more and more of a good, what happens? The opportunity cost of producing that good also increases. So therefore, what does the producer tell? The producer will say, look here, when I am going to supply more and more and more, my opportunity cost is increasing. So therefore, I will only supply more if the price increases to cover my opportunity cost. So only if the price increases to cover my opportunity cost, only then I will supply more. Direct relationship. If I'm to give you, I think I've given you an example with my classes. Now, most of you all know I do only online classes. Reason, I work full-time in an econ firm. That's my full-time job. I work as an economist, do all the analysis, different things. I do that during the day. At night, I do online classes. So therefore, I don't do a physical class. Now, so many of you all come and ask me, sir, why don't you start a physical class? Some institutes have also called. They've asked me to come. Most of, even now the 2027 batch, so many people keep on saying. So they keep on asking. So they're asking me, sir, why don't you do a physical class? In other words, what are they asking me? They are asking me, sir, why don't you increase your supply? Right now, I am only supplying online classes. So why don't you go and supply physical classes? All that's what they're asking me. Then a answer I can give them. I can tell them, look here, if I am going to supply physical classes, that means you're asking me to increase my supply. If I am to supply physical classes, that means I have to give up on my full-time job. Now, that's a job that I really like doing. Very interesting. Every day is a different thing. It's all econ. It helps me doing my class also. So I really like doing that. So then I will tell my students, look here, if I'm going to do a physical class, that means I have to quit this job. Then my whole benefit I get from it, not just the salary, right? The experience, everything, I have to give up. So I have a very high opportunity cost. So if I'm going to quit that and start a physical class, means my opportunity cost is very high. So therefore, I will tell the student, look here, if the class fees is, let's say, 10,000 a month, if you can pay me 10,000 a month, then I will stop this, then I will come and do a physical class for you. And that is the story, Lamai. Because if you are going to increase your supply, someone tells me, sir, increase your supply, increase your classes, not just online, do a physical. So if I have to increase my supply, my opportunity cost also increases. Now I have to give up a huge thing. So then I will tell only if the price increase, only if the price increase, if you can pay me 10,000 rupees a month, only then I will increase my supply. That is what you call now the law of increasing marginal opportunity cost. That is the second reason for the law of supply. So only if the price increase, the supply will increase its supply. That is what it is. And then some of you all also come and ask me, sir, can you do me an individual class? Yeah. For them also, I say no. Some people keep on asking. Their parents also call, "Ane sir, karanna puluwan." And then recently, I have not quoted prices. Just to avoid this person, what I do is I tell them a very high price. So I tell them, okay, I will do an individual class, but you have to pay me this much for a class. Then they're like, okay, sir, we'll talk and discuss and let you know. And they never come back. That's how I avoid the fellows asking me individual class. Right. So what is the logic there, Lamai? The logic is I will only increase my supply if what happens? I will only increase my supply if the price increases. That is answer number 2, law of increasing marginal opportunity cost. So learn how to write an answer for that, Lamai. Very commonly repeated question that comes again and again and again. Does Ranti have internships? Yes, maybe after A-levels you can try. It'll be a little hard to get in. The standard to get in is a little bit tough because it's comparatively a smaller firm. You only have a little big people. So many people come for apply, they don't even get the interview called. But if you're really good, you can get it. Okay, so that's that. You don't have to talk about the law of supply much, Lamai. We've explained the two reasons. That will be fine. Then we'll go to the next one. 2014 A levels, question number 3. The marks, Lamai, so in terms of marks, how they would have given ideally is, I feel, they would have given around 1 mark for stating the reason, maybe around 1.5 marks for explaining. So they would have, sorry, they would have done it that way. That's how they would have given the 5 marks. That's one way I can think of. Then question 2014 question 3, part 3. They're asking you, what is meant by prices of other goods that influence the supply of a good? And they're asking you, Lamai, for 5 marks now. So what is price of other goods in supply? When we say prices of other goods, what does that mean? Sisters, yeah, they're going into uni, but they have not finalized it yet. I think they might do the business science degree at Moratua, but they're also still a little confused on what exactly to do. Okay, so what is this, Lamai? There is no length කියලා එකක් නැහැ ළමයි, but as long as you can give the main points, you're fine. So what are price of other goods? Prices of other goods, ළමයි, when you talk about supply, refers to production substitutes. What are production substitutes? Production substitutes are මොනවාද? Two goods that can be produced with the same resources, or you can say with similar resources and similar technology. Now, for example, remember in your class, I would have given you, now you can give an example. Now you have to explain this for 5 marks, no? Right? So things like what? Things like boat rides and fishing. So boat rides and fishing, they can be production sub. Now they are not related in a consumption phase, but if you have the same, with the same resources, with the same technology, you can produce both of this. No? Milk and yogurt, yes, could be close enough. But you can't give something like tea and coffee. Lama. Tea and coffee, completely different the production processes. So if the production, the resources, the technology is somewhat similar, that becomes a production sub. Now you can give a small introduction like that, Lama. So that might not be enough for 5 marks now. Okay. So maybe what you can do is, now these actually easy question in the very brief tama they ask you, but maybe in your year, if they give 5 marks, then they'll expect you to write more. So then you can talk about how it affects Lama. Go one by one. Okay. You can say, if the price of the production substitute increase, what will happen? The producers who are currently supplying your good will now start supplying the production substitute. No? So they will go there now because that one is giving a higher price. So as a result, what will happen? The supply of the concerned good will start decreasing. And in 2 to 3 lines, give a small explanation there. And then you can say, on the other hand, if the price of the production substitute decrease, then what happens? People who are supplying the production substitute, then they will start coming and they will come and supply your good. No? So as a result, what happens? Supply will increase. Why will the supply decrease? Again, the logic. Now, for example, a production substitute, maybe for me, let's say, is online business studies classes. Okay. So now, if the price of business studies classes increase, what will I do? I will stop teaching economics and I will go and supply business studies, right? So if the price of the production substitute increase, the supply of economic classes will go down because I'm stopped teaching economics. That's the point. So if the price of production increase, supply of your good will start to come. Same thing the other way. Now, what if the business studies classes prices go down? Then business studies teachers will come and start teaching econ. Supply increases. That's what happens. Subject complementary can be taken into consideration. No, so here you don't talk about consumption substitutes and complementary goods. So when you say prices of other goods in supply, that refers to production supply. Now, for example, I would have told you all this. Now, if you take something like tea and coffee, okay, tea and coffee, they are consumption substitutes. So under demand, tea and coffee will be substitutes. They are consumption substitutes. But tea and coffee will not be production substitutes, Lama. Because can you produce tea and coffee with the same resources, same technology? No. For tea, you have a tea plant, production is different. For coffee, you have a coffee plant, that production is different. So you can't produce it with the same resources. So they are not production substitutes. So when you talk about supply, Lamai, you are referring to production substitutes, not producer substitute, not production substitutes is the correct term there. And then you have to explain what they are and product go into detail. Done. That's 2014 question number 3. Then moving into Lamai, chili and carrot. Again, I won't take it as the same thing, Lamai, because that's maybe production is different. Okay. Okay. Then 2015. What are the factors that are held constant when drawing the market supply curve? Same thing that they're asking you. Same thing as what? Same thing as the first question we did. So factors held constant when drawing the supply curve. What are the non-price determinants? Price is the only one that is changing. No? So price is the one that is not constant. Everything else is changing. So Anna, you talk about that. Complementary goods, Lama, you don't talk about in supply. In supply, there's something called production. Now, there are byproducts, but in your syllabus, it's not there, so we'll not go there. Related good, other good, same thing. Okay. So you talk about the non-price determinant. If you just label these, Lama, that is enough. You will get your 4 marks. Right. Then the next one. Now, same thing. Define the law of supply and explain the reasons for this. Now, see, Lama, same thing. So what is the law of supply? Law of supply is saying that there is a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied, while all other factors affecting supply are held constant at a given point of time. So you properly define it. Then the reasons, same thing that they asked before, Lamai. What are the 2 reasons? One is the profit motive, and 2 is the law of increasing marginal opportunity cost. So you give the 2 reasons and explain. That is more than enough. Then the next one. Okay, this one. Briefly describe the factors. How marks will get, maybe 1 mark for law of supply, and they'll give you like 1.5 marks each for the other, for the reasons. Yeah, maybe something like that. Or maybe 2 marks for law of supply, 1 mark for the reasons. So we don't know, we try for the higher mark. Okay, then 2019 A-levels, question 2, part 4. Briefly describe the factors influencing the price elasticity of supply. 4 marks can now you talk about 4 factors. So what are the factors that influence the PES? Number 1, factor mobility. How easily can you move your factors of production around? So if your factors are immobile, now, for example, Lamai, if you take very specific factors, let's say in the production of, let's say guns, in the production of guns, there is a machine that fits the gun and the something. Now that machine can't be used in another production element. It's a highly specific machine, no? It can only use to be, let's say, produce a gun. Now those kind of factors are immobile. Now if you take something like a laptop, those factors are mobile. Now with this laptop, I can do this class. This laptop can be used in a shop for as a cashier also. You can use a laptop for something else also. So that is mobile. So if your factors of production are mobile, if you can easily move your factors of production around, then supply will be elastic. You can change your supply soon. But if your factors are immobile, like it's very specific, this is the exact thing you can use it for, supply becomes inelastic. You can't increase your supply much more. Okay. This has to be more in a paragraph format. This is, I have given the main points. The answer I would expect it to be more in a paragraph format. You can combine the 2, put it into a paragraph. Okay. Then second one, the nature of the good. Now, whether the good is a agriculture good or something like a manufactured good. Now, if your good is something like an agricultural good, my supply will be inelastic because you can't increase the supply all of a sudden. So when they say factors influence PS, determine PS, same thing. So the agricultural goods, you can't increase. Now, price of agricultural goods increase. You can't increase supply today. No? You have to grow. It takes time. weather can affect, so many things can affect. Supply is inelastic. And then what if it's something like a manufactured good? You can soon hire some labor, you can do so much of things, and you can get it, right? Supply will be elastic, right? All four factors. You have to explain four factors. Two is not. Alcohol is having inelastic supply and demand. Inelastic demand, supply doesn't have to be inelastic. Okay. Then coming to the next one, availability of storage facilities. Now, if you can store the good lamai, if the good is something that can be stored, that means your supply becomes elastic. But if it is something that you can't store, then it is inelastic. If you can store lamai, you can taggala put the goods back to the warehouse. What is in the warehouse, you can put out. You can soon change the supply if it can be stored. If it's a non-perishable good. But if it's a good that can't be stored, then lamai, even if the price increase or decrease, you have to continue supplying the same thing. Something like tomatoes. If the price of tomatoes come down, can the tomato supplier hide the tomato in the factory and keep and put it 1 month later? Bad. It'll get rotten. So if it's something that you can't store, you can't change the supply. Inelastic. You can store now, it becomes elastic. So Anna explained that. Then the final one, time taken to adjust the price change. So when the price changes, immediately, now price changes today, lamai, heta you can't increase the supply. So in the short run or immediately, supply is inelastic. But after some time, in the long run, you can change your supply. The time lapse, that's the same thing. That's the last one that you're talking about. So those are a few factors, lamai. Now put this into a nice paragraph. This can be 4 separate paragraphs. For each paragraph, if you want, you can give a small heading as well. So when you're writing answer, make but a lesson right? Maybe give headings, break it into sections, do those. So it's very nice and neat. Done. Then we go into 2019 question 3. If you haven't described that, then you will get half the marks. Senior 5 months, easy chapters. Now, for those, okay, one more thing. For those who are a little weak, what I will recommend for you is learn unit 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8. With this, you can do the entire paper 2. 100 mark paper 2, you can get down. For the ones who are little weak, you are right now people who are at a level less than 50 marks. Okay, so mainly learn 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. But when I say mainly learn, that is not just learning theory. You have to do all the past papers from 2011 to 24, do as much as possible model questions, see where you go wrong, see what happens, learn from it. So that is for paper 1 and paper 2. Then from these units, in paper 1, you can do the entire one. You get around 22 MCQs. So 22 MCQs, that is 44 marks. So 44 marks in paper 1, and you get 100 marks in paper 2. So total 144 marks you get from these 5 units, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. So focus mainly on that 5. And then after that, you can learn the other units to do MCQs. You can do, instead of 3, you can do 4 also. That's also fine. 1, 2, 4, 7, 8 or 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. That's also okay. Then for other units, learn those units basically to do the MCQs. That is, let's say you do 3 there, then unit number 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So learn these just to get the MCQs done. Briefly learn it and do the past papers. 5 and 6 is one question. The next easiest one to score for MCQs, is unit number 11 and 12. Now 11 and 12, a lot of people don't even touch that. The weak students, they completely think it's hard and they don't even touch it. Now that's what in my theory class, I summarized it and I taught you all. So I taught you all, I think this in around, I think maximum around 10 hours. I don't think there's even 10 hours, no? I think maybe around 8 hours. In 8 hours, I taught you all this entire couple of units. And I taught you all targeting the MCQs. So you get around 8 MCQs. MCQ number 43 to 50. Sometimes it can change a little. You get 8 MCQs from these 2 units. Some are direct from the unit itself. Some are a little current context. Current context lamai happens on like what we are talking in class. Now, even that I start with a cartoon and the evagi podi knowledge, they test like 1 or 2 questions like that. It might not be in the tute, but it will be something that we have discussed in class. So 8 MCQs kiyan lamai 16 marks. So that is something that you can specialize even in one day. In just one day, you can master 11 and 12. So then 144 marks from paper from those 5 units. If you start 11 and 12, that's 16 marks. That's 160 marks covered just from these units. That's what I would recommend for like a weak student. Not to select unit 1. That is if you are targeting for 20 out of 20. That's something that I would have told as well. Because to get 20 out of 20 for unit 1 essay question, it will be a little tough. But you can easily get 15, 16 out of 20. You can. So if you are targeting for like an island rank, a very high rank, then unit 1 can be tough. But to get a normal A to pass the exam, definitely unit 1 you can do. Right. Coming back to my question then. In the short run, you can't adjust the supply. Immediately, you can't change. So it's inelastic. Okay. Mention 4 factors influencing change in supply. Easy. So they're talking about determinants except price. A change in supply. So not change in quantity supply. So change in supply, what can be the 4 factors? You can talk about price of inputs. You can talk about technology. You can talk about what? Price of related goods, government policies. You can talk about all of that. And what you can do is, Lamai, you can go a little bit more into detail and maybe say if this increase, what will happen to supply? If this decrease, what will happen? If you want, you can. SNA and macroeconomic equilibrium, those are also very easy units. Do it, Lamai. I would definitely recommend for a smart student targeting for a very good grade, question number 5 in your paper. Those come from 2 units, unit 5 and unit 6, but it's actually very easy. Should we explain? Not really, but since they're saying it's mentioned, even if you state the points, it's enough. But if you want to think, give a small 1-line explanation, that's done. Then going to the next one. Recording will not be available on YouTube. If I find some free time, I will put, but don't drop me 100 messages asking for the record. 2021, question 2. Explain with the aid of diagrams 3 factors that would cause a shift in the supply curve. Easy, man. Same thing. Now they're asking you to draw a diagram also and show. So go one by one. Okay. So let's say, for example, okay, one factor will be cost of production. So then you explain and show, Lama. So you can say, okay, one cost of production, write a small paragraph. If the cost of production of a good increases, then what happens? Supply will decrease. Similarly, if cost of production decreases, supply will increase. Product, give a small para. And then now draw and show. So if cost of production decreases, and supply will increase. If the cost of production increases, supply will decrease here. So for that, maybe you can label. So this is if the cost of production goes up. This is if the cost of production goes down. So product explain. Now that is for 2 marks. And lamai explain 3. One diagram is also okay, but I would recommend lamai draw 3 diagrams just to be sure. You have to show both lamai, increase, decrease both. They're saying shift in the supply curve. So it can be a leftward and a rightward shift. Then explain another factor. Let's say technology. So if the technology improves, and supply will shift to the right. Technology improves now, supply will increase. That is if the technology improves. If you are using outdated technology, now supply will decrease. And you right, Laman. So same thing that we have learned. Okay, you give a small this thing and you write, Laman. These are easy. Actually, it's the same knowledge that they are testing in the 2019 paper also. Same knowledge, but here now they are telling you to put a diagram and explain that. That's what they are asking you to do. So factors influencing changing supply, you should not be asking me that the answer for that. Disgrace. Right. That is part 4. So 3 things. You can talk about government policies, you can talk about price of related goods, you can talk about anything that is there. But make sure 3 factors with 3 separate diagrams better. Even in one diagram should be okay, but I would to be on the safer side, I would draw 3 separate diagrams and I will explain that. Taxes, yes. Then going into the next part. 2022. Number of producers, yes. What is held constant in drawing a supply curve? What is held constant, Laman? Along the supply curve, the price changes. What is held constant? All the, yeah, you can talk about tax and subsidies and the curve. Correct. You can talk about all the other determinants, the non-price determinants. Like what? Like, can we expect a supply question for your exam that I don't know, Lama? I'm not setting your paper. If they can ask, they cannot ask. If they ask, it's more lazy. So, talk about anything, Lama. Cost of production, technology, government policies, price of related goods. Right? So, you can talk about what no. Writing 3 points should be enough because the 3-mark question, just write 1 or 2 extra if you want. There was a question. Mention 3 factors together that increase the supply and trivial diagram and fine. If it's properly mentioned, that should be okay. If we properly talked about this, should be fine. Okay, then the last one. This is the last question. No, there are 2. Brief describe 2 reasons for a supply curve to be positively sloped. Same thing, element. 2 reasons why the supply curve positively slope. You explained. One is the profit motive, what we have done before. Same question again. Second one is the law of increasing marginal opportunity cost. So same answer that we had here. If you want, I will share the answer. The same answer, you have to explain again. Same thing in the way, there's nothing else to ask. No? I would have liked if there was a practical question from PES. There's not been, right? There is no elasticity related practical law, even a calculation from elasticity. I would have liked if they would have done that instead of Hamadam asking what will shift the supply curve and what are the reasons for the law of supply. That's what they have mainly been asking. So instead, maybe from the supply area, what they new things that they can test is they can go on asking about some calculations from PES. They can give you a practical situation and ask you to draw and explain something. They can, do a lot of things. New things, I don't know. So maybe they can. So actually, Lamai, do you all know this? I don't know if you all know this. When setting the paper, Lamai, they take suggestions from teachers as well. Do you all know that? So even tuition class teachers, school teachers, all of them can suggest questions. So questions that teachers suggest, some of them will show up. I don't suggest yet, but I know teachers who suggest, so I suggest them. They suggest that. So that kind of things happen. So the paper marking panel also, they are in touch with the teachers. And after the paper is made also, they get feedback from the teachers. What do you think and all of that. So you can do that. Recordings of unit 11 and 12, you can get 11 and 12, I consider as 1 unit. You can get that. Okay. Maybe a few government teachers also here and there. Done. Then am I coming to the last one? See, look at the latest A-level paper. Can you see they tried to make it a little different from all the past papers? The latest paper is Lamine. This is the 24 paper. They asked you, state 3 government policy tools which can influence the market supply of a commodity. Government policy tools that can affect the market supply. Now, all the others, Lamine, have been very easy. Now. So can you see, now in the latest ones, they're trying to make it a little bit challenging now. The paper is not as easy as it is. They're trying to make it a little bit difficult. The reasons are enough for the previous one. So here are the main 2 things that you have to write is definitely subsidies and taxes. Now here, Lama, don't just write the point, but give a small 1-line explanation. Just don't say subsidies. So you can say subsidies is a financial assistance the government gives for the producer. As a result, if they increase subsidies, supply can increase. If they decrease, supply can decrease. That if you want is fine, but just don't, I feel only writing the word subsidy is not enough again. Yes, the question verb is saying state, but just writing subsidy might not be enough because subsidies, Lama, can even be given to consumers. So you have to be specific there and you can talk. Then again, taxes. Now, if you say taxes, there are so many taxes. Now, for example, personal income tax, or let's say property tax. Now, those kind of things might not affect supply level. So you have to, when you say tax or product be paid, those are indirect taxes, taxes on goods and services. Under that, like VAT, excise duties, that can affect. And the see, small explanation. Now, those two are the points that you definitely should have read. Then apart from that, what else? What are the other government policy tools? Now they're saying three, no. So apart from that, you can write what? You can write things like government regulations. Now, for example, let's say government comes and puts a regulation and say, if you want to become a tuition teacher, you have to have a degree. Let's say, okay, if you want to do A-level economics classes, you have to have a degree in economics. They put a regulation like that. So tuition teachers, if you don't have a degree in economics, you can't do. Then what can happen, Lama? Supply can decrease, no? Supply of tuition classes will decrease because not everyone might have a degree. And that is regulations, Lama. Then also government stockpile. Remember this buffer stock and all, Lama, for certain goods. Now that can affect supply. Government purchasing buffer stock, releasing buffer stock, that can affect. Then things like import policies, those things also can be there. Minimum prices, maximum prices are okay, but that doesn't really cause a shift in your supply, right? So that should also be fine, right? That because that will reduce the quantity supplied, increase the quantity supplied. You can talk a little bit about that. That should be okay. But I'm taking answers from the original marking scheme itself. So these points were mentioned in the original marking scheme. Then during the discussion, now teachers, they discussed the marking scheme. These were a few points that were handwritten in the marking scheme. So they would have given marks for that as well. But there are no marks for price ceiling, price floor. So probably they would have not given marks there. Third point, regulations and so on. Like for example, government can put regulations, no production regulations. Government can tell, okay, if you want to supply tuition classes, economics tuition classes, you have to have economics degree. Let's say they have put a rule like that. Only people who have economics degree can teach A-level economics classes. So then what will happen? Then supply will decrease. Not everyone has economics degree. So you can go there. You don't have to explain in detail, but a small one-line small explanation will be needed here. Just stating the point might not be enough. Buffer stock limit we talked about in unit number 3. Quotas affect supply limit. For example, when you put a quota, okay, what happens is the supplier will only be able to supply a specific amount. So let's say, for example, this is supply, this is the demand. You might come and put a quota at, let's say, 100 units. This is the supply after the quota. We don't go into these diagrams and all in detail in your syllabus, but Anna, you might put a quota there. So government might say only supply 100 units. So that does have an impact. Diagram don't need to know, don't worry. Okay. See, now what I'm trying to tell you here is this thing, what the examiner is now doing is they're trying to make sure the people who by heart the notes can't do the paper. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure people who logically, practically understand the subject so that they can do. Now, if you go and see the MCQs in the recent years, in any year, they didn't ask these statistics. No? MCQs වල කවදාවත් ඇහුවේ නැහැ. What is Sri Lanka's economic growth rate in 2022? What is Sri Lanka's GDP in this year? They never asked those because those are things people have to by heart and underline. Those are things you can Google and you can get. So they are examiners moving a little away from that. Now, in earlier past papers, you would have had things like that. Now, recently, very low. I'm not saying that will never come away, but comparatively low. So examiners also moving into the more practical side of things. What are government policies? So government policies, what can the government do, right? We learn taxes and subsidies under supply. But apart from that, so you write one more. So also, what you can do for a question like this is if you're not sure. Now, tax and subsidy, you'll definitely will write. Third one, you're not sure. So write around 2 or 3 extra points so that you can be on the safer side. Just because you have written 4, they can't cut marks. No, if one of that is correct, they will give. So if you're not sure, product 1 or 2 extra. Yeah, now don't write 10, 15. Right? Product you can strategically write, plan and write. Quota can ideally reduce the supply. Not increase, it will usually reduce the supply. That's why they put a limit. Quota is like a limit. No? You usually put to reduce. Okay, done. That is the part on supply. Is that okay? Done. We have 5 minutes, so I'm not starting market equilibrium. Next class, we will start market equilibrium. That is focus area number 7. That is a bit of a bigger part. When they state, you don't have to explain in detail, but to be on the safer side, I would recommend to give like a small 1 to 2 line, a small explanation. Puluwang na better to give. Not a paragraph one, but instead of saying the word subsidy, say what a subsidy is. That's better. Right. So with that, we'll end it. If you have questions, let me stay and clarify. Fast track people, you have a doubt clearing session tomorrow. Past paper class people, I will see you all again next Friday. Fast track people, I will see you all around 3-4 times within the week in the next few days. Get the work done. See you all. Bye-bye.